Okay, welcome back. Always able to rely on chat for a good laugh, asking if this is our After Dark DLC. A quick rehost for those of us that are outside of the office requesting it. So here we go, getting everybody back in ASAP to continue the carnage. And we are wondering what carnage will go on in Europe, because last time France, Burgundy and Austria really ripped into Great Britain and friends, and it was a fairly decisive win for the Central European powers there. It is not known if they'll be going back for round 2 because British France just doesn't look right anymore. And I am all about that border gore Casus Belli, or tighten up your borders CB. And France isn't looking too hot, and the only options here is to really remove France or trim away some of that Britain. Either way, I'm always hoping for carnage. Now, if you're just joining us and missed out on the beginning there, the Ottomans might look a little smaller than you remember. They lost their top half to Hungary and a little bit of their bottom to the Mamluks. Mamlukian Aleppo now taking over. And that is another part of 1.14. Again, an option, so if you want it, you can have it. If you don't like it, you can turn it off. But areas are localized based on region now. There is no gameplay difference between British France and Great Britain, but it's just to show that this area is part of the France region. If they take over a large area, they go by the region name. Otherwise, they take the smaller area. So this is a reasonable chunk of France, so it gets called France. And that, if my binoculars will help me there, I believe is British Pyrenees. Much like how we have Russian Finland, but the British have a far bigger establishment here, which is called British Scandinavia. The British really getting their fingers in all the pies around here. For a long time they were going unopposed until the Central European powers really helped out there. And it was... Austria was really on the fence about that, from what I gather. They were only willing to help the defender in any of these wars. But they took a stand and decided that they would help the French here. Now, Portugal appears to be having more than a few rebel problems here. This is a common theme for Portugal. They were having troubles before. We'll take a closer look at their country and see what turmoils they're falling into that is causing this. Does not appear to be religiously caused, since they're doing a fairly good job of converting their land, but perhaps they are dedicating too much in Africa and overseas, which is causing them some turmoil at home. We'll have a closer look at their country once we get going. Starnan, who's taking control over at Ming there, is getting used to their new nation. Apparently the AI teched up too much for their tastes. God forbid our AI be competent at getting their tech up, but that is up for Starnan to craft their nation as they want from here on out. And it seems for them that means taking over Langshan, so best of luck to them with that. We've got our 16 players, and away we go. Truly, Austria's borders beginning to look more like a greater Italy, and once they integrate Mantua, which they're currently working on, that could well become a thing. When it comes to Mantua's integration, yeah, they are 57% of the way through with that. To the point that they've actually ran out of Diplo power. Now, why is that? Seems that Daniel von Habsburg is a bit of an inept ruler, and their heir only slightly better. Funnily enough, Austria is being piloted by Daniel, so that'll be why they're naming it such. Egoist. Oh my, he was too incompetent. He wasn't even allowed to live, and now they're doing even worse in terms of diplomacy. So what does this mean for Portugal then? They seem to be having rather a few problems. The peasants are angry and looking to strike out against them. Perhaps they can inscript a bit of help from their ally Spain to help out with that. And this is why the Peasants' War. It would at a glance appear they let their manpower go too low, and that is one of the triggers for the peasant war. You really need to get it back up to prevent that. So he's going to have to deal with his peasant problem. Or potentially he might actually see a bit of logic to collapsing to them. Granted, that would be extremely painful for his country, but it would end the peasant war at least. That might be something they want to consider. Extremely painful indeed. That would be a lot of autonomy across the board. He already has a lot of autonomy in those overseas provinces. But sire, the peasants are indeed revolting. Tell us something we don't know. It's not going to help with their manpower issue if they fight them head on, so might want to pass a message on. Tell Petter to just give in to their demands. It might be better for your country. Fortunately for Portugal, now this being a multiplayer environment, they are wide open for attack right now. Fortunately for Portugal here, Spain is in no hurry to attack them. It seems that Spain and Portugal are going down the historical friendship route. Whether or not that will result in Portuguese subjugation, well, we shall see just how historically they go. Just like good old historical enormous Hungary, chewing through the Ottoman Empire. Want to keep our eyes on any wars that are going on, but apart from Forza down in the Mamluks, not much going on. And as we had suspected, the Mutapan gold mines are going to have to fall to the Mamluks' might. They're bringing in a heavy amount of cannon here, obviously very confident that they can defeat the Mutapans in battle. Going for the 10 to 1s as any commander should. Comes up quite a bit, but if you attack an enemy and you have 10 times as many units or more, you will instantly win that battle. And that is why it is often very good to go for your 10 to 1s. It's also allowing the Mutapans into his land so he can fight them on their terms. Mutapans also bringing their fair share of artillery, but it takes them quite a bit longer to siege them up. There is a tactics difference between the countries, so I imagine once Mamluks is done with their territory, they will round on the armies there. Yes, Mamluks has a lot of base tax under their belt. 1199, they could well be number 1 here. Perhaps the Bahmanes beat them on that front. We'll have a look. Ming, in fact, taking top dollar there, 1286. Bahmanes and Russia and Mughals all vying for that 3rd place in terms of development. But when it comes to who's the winner, we don't look at development. I don't even think we look if you're alive or not. We look at score. And whilst there are a couple people with their 1,000 point scorecards, nobody appears to have yet got their 2,000 point scorecard. If we look at Bahmanes, for example, their 2nd scorecard is over here on Sind, and if they want to take that, they're going to have to rip it from the Mughals' cold, dead hands, because the Mughals are really very unlikely to just give that up. I believe Mughals just declared that Genet, probably butchering the name there, is now protected by them. Being a poor observer, I am not privy to the in-game chat other than what comes up here. And there we have it, peace in our time. Not a single player looking to rip another country's guts out. Even Starnan has finished off their battle with Langshan, and whilst going for some terribly unappetizing borders there, are no doubt sending a message over to Bahmanes saying, that's your side and this is mine, and your side might also be mine someday. The Ayutthaya question still remains though, and Ming have already claimed the capital. In fact, they already have their units on the border ready to go for it. Ayutthaya are allied with Champa, but I don't think that's going to scare anyone away, especially if Glorious Ming are sitting on Miltech 15 to Ayutthaya's 11. That will be a bit of a cakewalk for Starnan. Seems that AI Ming have done incredibly well this round. In our previous multiplayer sessions, they got into a bit of trouble early on. They lost their Mandate of Heaven, and when that happens, well, the death toll goes for Ming. Speaking of people who have already had their death toll, looking at Prussia, they've made quite the comeback here. They might be small, but they are no doubt powerful. If we check them out there, they've almost finished off all their ideas, so they'll get their 7.5% discipline bonus. That's a real heavy hitter. And it's not that these lands are all that bad. Yeah, some of them considerably better than others. Danzig, however, already taken by Russia. And as we see, Russia is now Western. Russia had vassalized Danzig earlier on, and they used that for their Western focus. A lovely free upgrade for them. Now Hungary have their own target that they can go for. I believe Danzig can no longer be passed around. So if they want it, they are probably going to have to go for Wien. Or it might be used up completely. I might have to check on that one. If we check the Ottomans, on the other hand, nothing coming up there. I will have to double check that one then. And that should answer the question that came up in chat. Yes, Russia is indeed westernized now. They didn't have to do it the hard way. We also have some questions asking about Russia's victory cards. If we switch over to them, voyeur that we are around here. First off, I'm quite astonished at the size of their army. It's not a particularly bad army either. Jing's westernized Russia with all those forces. Grugi has really done something to turn things around for his fate in his multiplayer. And look at that. They have already managed to take the Lithuanian part of their scorecards. Was that taken naturally or was that ceded from Hungary? I thought Hungary had taken those before. We can check that though. Yes, Hungary did have them as cores. It seems that this is part of the deal that they had made. For Russia's invaluable assistance, Russia was granted one of their scorecards. Which is more, that was their 1550 scorecard on Lithuania, worth 2,000 points. That will slowly tick up over the course of 20 years, and that will no doubt put Russia into a pretty high position. Pretty damn high position. We can check that out actually. If we look at the scores here, Russia already has 719. When they get the 2,000 points from that, they will be, yep, they'll have overtaken Bakhmanis in about 20 years unless the score progresses differently or Bakhmanis somehow manage to rip their card out of the Mughals. Of course, Russia's other victory card is also on Hungary, so Hungary has to walk a very delicate balance here in this game. Check out Prussia, they are still too small to get victory cards, but once they do hit that point, and they'll be approaching it pretty soon, they're at 278, they need 300 for victory cards. They'll find it bordering them if we have a look at Bohemia. Victory card on Hungary and on Austria. Austria has one on Hungary, and we already know Ottomans have their one on the Serbian area. So everybody's really feeling hungry. They want those places for their victory cards. And one of the main reasons they really want them is that you can only have 2 victory cards eligible at once. That is to say, if you have your 1450 and 1550 victory cards and you have not taken either of them, you will not be eligible for the 3rd and 4th one, which are very much worth more points. The 3rd one worth 3,000, the 4th one worth 4,000, so you're going to have to make a move and grab one of the early ones if you want the later ones. We're being asked for all players' victory cards, and since there is peace in our time, I don't see why not. If we're looking at Portugal, they have 2 on their big, for now, ally, Spain. So if Portugal ever felt that they are tired of fighting rebels and instead wish to fight Spain, they may want to team up with the likes of France and Burgundy to really put the boot into Spain. That would mean casting off their British alliance that they have held since the start of the game. But sometimes you have to ask, what has Britain done for me? If we look over at Spain here, victory cards sitting 1 on Portugal, 1 on France. So indeed, this is why Portugal might be interested in teaming up with France to destroy Spain. It's in their own interests to discourage Spain from taking those. If we look over at France themselves, they only have to take one more in order to get their scorecard on Guyenne. So another war with England is no doubt on the cards. And if we check the scorecards that France has, the Guyenne one is worth 1,000. The one that they have on Austrian-Italian land, that is worth 2,000, but they may want to pass on that, hoping for perhaps one on Spain, since France certainly does not want to go attacking their saviour in the previous war, Austria. Looking over at Burgundy, however, 2 on France. Burgundy has a lot of reasons to strike France. In fact, they have no shortage of reason. They would no doubt get Great Britain's blessing, Denmark's approval, and Spain and Portugal would only be too happy to divide up France. Nonetheless, Burgundy remains a loyal ally with France, as they have since the start of the game. There are many incentives to end that, and if there's anybody who would end it with no warning, it would be Greykulf. Truly Bull in the China shop player, the only one that I would really give a 6 military rank to, if all our players were indeed EU4 leaders. Quickly skipping through them here, Bohemia enjoying victory cards on Austria and Hungary, we touched on that already I believe. Denmark getting it on Prussia and Burgundy. Good luck with either of those, Denmark. Denmark got well and truly thrashed in the previous war. I believe they were even forced pieced out. We know the Ottomans one's on Serbia and Syria. And if we look over at the Mughal Reich, they already have their one on Lahore, but they also have one on Bahmanes. Now Bahmanes and Mughals both have a 2,000 point victory card on each other. The odds of them working together are not all that high. Nonetheless, they do have an alliance for as long as such a thing can exist. And if we take a glance over at Ming here, here we go, they have it on just Nepal and Bihar, is that right? There we go, yes, they're 2 different regions, Nepal and Bihar. There we go. The area of Bihar and the area of Nepal. And that's a tricky situation, because I believe for both of those, they're going to have to strike at the Mughals and at Bahmanes. Ming's going to have to pick a side. Maybe that side will be only their own. Seems they're also mounting up their forces to have a go at Ayutthaya there. Now, I see war. Oh, I was fooled there. I thought we had seen Mamluki and Ottoman war going on. But no, they're both going for their separate wars, trying to consolidate power, perhaps before they end up at each other's throats again. And the deadline for being able to do that is just a year and a bit away. Also being asked about the Guntish ideas. They've unlocked all but their last and their ambition. But the Guntish ideas aren't too shabby. We've got core creation cost, production, privateer efficiency right from the get-go. So a Gotland that wants to go on a conquering spree is a Gotland I can really get behind. They also have their development cost, their mercenary maintenance, down 25%, which is a fair chunk. Their ships are cheaper, their trade power is better, they get an extra merchant, which I always find myself short of, and an extra bit to their naval force limits modifier. We'll pop back once they've managed to grab their final idea. But Visby is starting to turn into quite the trade centre of the world. They've got their own marketplace going on, defending it with a level 4 fort. Quite frightening indeed. Enjoying a shipyard too, so yeah. Despite being a Swedish core, nobody is allowed to set foot in Gotland but the Guntish. That is why they are guaranteed by both Denmark and Russia. They also used to be an elector for the Holy Roman Empire, but sadly they got reformed. I believe it was this one here, Newmark, decided to show their influence over in Visby. I guess they could be converted later on. They might even become emperor at some point. Aha, they're administrative monarchy, not noble republic. We were also asked about the Mamluk victory card. And there we go. It was not on Aleppo, but on Aydin and also on Thrace. So the Mamluks have every reason to go fighting the Ottomans. Who can blame them, really? So the Ottomans must know they're in a pickle here. They maintain that alliance with the Mughals, but they must know, they must really feel the disappointment that came before when the Mughals decided to sell them out for literally money. Yes, in the previous war, where the Mughals supposedly helped out the Ottomans, the Mughals did throw men into the Hungarian meat grinder, but later pieced out for a ducat or two. Well, the good Lord helps those who helps themselves, isn't that right? If anybody would be a good ally for the Ottomans right now, it would be Bahmanes to double team the Mughals. But similarly, the Mughals are cozied up with the Mamluks. How very strange to be cozied up with both of them, perhaps forcing a bit of peace. In fact, checking the Mughals, they're quite keen to make their little sphere of friends there. I wonder if they're looking to diplomatically defend themselves against Russia. We'll no doubt have the Mughals coming down to explain their position later on. Now I see you there in chat asking how I'd feel about a partition of Gotland. Part of the Treaty of Vienna is that Gotland must remain independent. They bow to nobody. Well, maybe they pay lip service to this phony emperor here. Actually, I'm curious. It's actually Portugal who is next in line for the imperial throne. I guess the peasants were very persuasive. But yes, it does seem that that peasant war is over. They got their fair chunk of bonuses there. I don't think they gave in to them though, otherwise we'd probably see quite a bit more autonomy than we do. But I might speak to them later and figure out what was going on. We've also had requests to have a closer look at the New World. A fair chunk of it remaining unexplored for some of these, but if we tag over to the likes of Spain, I believe they see the most. Spanish Apple Nose being a very big power under them. So what do we have? Well, they've got their West African Charter over there. So Spanish Apple Nose, although they have a fair chunk of Liberty Desire, and now that is quite funny. Let me explain why this is quite funny. The Spanish Apple Nose Liberty Desire is at 31.2%. Well, something got a little changed, or shall we say buffed, in 1.14 here. And that is espionage. I wonder if anybody has been so cruel as to take espionage. Such cruel partners would be Burgundy or France, but perhaps even Austria. No, they have not. I would quite like to know if anybody has, because I want to touch on something. Sadly not. Not that I can see, at least. I think one of the miners that remains may have, though. Bear with me as I try to enjoy this for myself here. Otherwise we can just check them out regularly. I don't think the Pope takes espionage, much as I'm sure he'd want to. I think it's more of a late game idea for some of these. Okay, well we'll look at it through here anyway. But yes, espionage got changed up a bit in that you may now study technology, which is great if you are below tech. You can study technology of somebody who is 2 techs or more ahead of you, and you will get 1 of each of the types of points that they are ahead of you. So if they have 2 admin technologies advantage over you, and you study their tech, you will get 1 more admin point per month. At least until you are discovered and chucked out of their country for 5 years. But then you can always find someone else who is ahead in technology. But the real thing I'm looking at here is the Agitate for Liberty, which is part of espionage. And what that will do is it will slowly tick up to add 25% liberty desire for a nation, or rather a subject. So when we look over at Spanish Apple Nose, and we see that they have now 30% liberty desire, Some would-be troublemaker could agitate liberty to add another 25% to that. That would be enough to go over 50 to make them disloyal. And then they could be supported for independence, and it would be quite a blow to the Spanish Empire, especially this early on, to lose their establishment down in Spanish Appleknowes. Would also free up that land for some taking over by, oh, I don't know, the big blue blob herself. The blue blob looking to establish French. I tilt my head and squint my eyes. Rahuanok. We went through these names before and I butchered them then. I would probably butcher them now, but if we look up the regions that we have now, we've got Capkeep to the north and Rahuanok to the south. Several other areas as well, like... no, that is not Arsloken, that is Asralochen. Lukatun. Yeah, we've got quite a few. But the real question is, do we have the province of... No, we do not have the province of Gitgood. We showed that off in a feature stream last week. Actually, that was a curveball thrown to me by Wiz. Turns out we have a province called Gitgood, which can sometimes spawn. As I said before, if you have any questions for us in the about this or about 1.14, do throw it to us in the Twitch chat. I have my eyes on the situation there. For example, somebody wanting to have another look over at that Imperial map mode, that we can do. Austria slowly adding provinces to the Empire. Or perhaps these were already there and it's just that we have gaps here. After all, Austria is not the Emperor, that is Spain. But yes, a bit of a squeeze going on in the Empire, even though it kind of slithered its way over to Denmark. Denmark did decide to join the HRE early on, even good old Gotland joined in there. And people are again asking about Prussia and victory cards. Well, Prussia will hopefully have victory against their reformed zealots. Even though they already are reformed, it seems some of the populace believe they could be even more zealous.